This week I coded up some block CAs so I could mess about with some of the classic rule sets that have already been discovered there. But I also created some rules of my own, and to my amazement, a very familiar shape appeared and started wandering around the screen. This was the last thing I was expecting. The iconic Conway glider, hero of t-shirts, tattoos, and now a hacker symbol, there it was, just wandering about. It's a 15-step cycle glider, so of course it moves differently to the original, but still, more on that in a moment. So, what is a block CA? If you start with the standard cell you'd find in a regular CA and subdivide it into 4 parts, you get a block of cells. If a number is assigned to each cell, then each cell combination can be given a unique reference between 0 and 15, as there are only 16 possible combinations. So each block can therefore be referred to by its unique number. Effectively, it's just counting up in binary with each cell operating as a binary digit. Top left is 1, followed by a 2, 4, and 8, and the combinations are as shown. Next up, I need a grid to hold the blocks. If I place block 6 onto the grid for timestamp 0 to get started, I now want to do something with it. So I need to select the shape it's going to become when the time step increases. So I've selected block 9 for this. So block 6 will transfer into block 9 at time t1. Now I need a rule for block 9, and I've selected block 6 for it. So when the time step increments, it will convert back to block 6. In fact, I need a rule for all 16 cell blocks to define what they'll turn into as the time steps increase. So no matter which block appears on the grid, there'll always be a rule defining what will happen next, and it's known as the transfer function. But as you can see, no matter what transfer function is in place, the grid tile will just sit there flashing the new block at you. There's no possibility for any emergent behavior to take hold. If I run the rule backwards, we end up back at t0, so clearly there's a missing step. What's required is to implement what's known as the Margolus neighborhood, in which the lattice is divided into 2 cell blocks which are shifted by 1 cell along each dimension on alternate time steps. Now the contents of a tile is redefined on each time step, but the transfer function doesn't change. It's still applied as before, but the end result is quite different. Now the cells move apart from each other and end up moving off grid. There are some well-known transfer functions which give rise to interesting behavior when applied to the Margolus neighborhood. This is the critters rule set. This rule leads to complex dynamics similar to those in Conway's Game of Life. And the critters rule is invertible, invariant to rotation, and the population remains constant for the odd and even grid instances. Unlike the gliders in life, reversibility and the conservation of particles imply that when gliders crash together in critters, at least one must escape, and often these crashes allow both incoming gliders to reconstitute themselves on different outgoing tracks. The enticingly titled paper, There Can Be Only One, tells us that eventually critters must converge to a state that is periodic with the exception of a single glider. The last glider will be immortal and cannot be destroyed. So, block CAs can have additional properties that can't exist in Conway's Game of Life, but only if the transfer function is designed to allow them. They can be reversible, which means that even after a million generations in a simulation with millions of particles, if you apply the transfer function backwards, you'll end up with the original layout. Reversible CAs form a natural model of reversible computing, a technology that could lead to ultra-low-power computing devices. And many problems in physical modeling, such as the motion of particles in an ideal gas or modeling the alignment of magnetic charges, are naturally reversible and can be simulated by reversible CAs. But not all CAs are reversible. It depends on the transfer function you've created. For example, if both block 5 and block 10 are mapped to block 15, then the emerging pattern can't be reversed, as it can never be known from which tile block 15 was created. And likewise, the sandpile simulation employs a probabilistic element as part of its rule set, which means it also can't be reversed. The rule set for the glider, which shares components with the original Conway's glider, is reversible. Any tile with a single activated cell is rotated 90 degrees anti-clockwise, so an 8 becomes a 2 becomes a 1 becomes a 4, and so on. Another classic rule set captures an emergent form that is reminiscent of the style on display in the movie Tron. The transfer function is quite simplistic, with all blocks remaining unchanged, except for blocks 0 and 15. This rule is invertible and invariant to rotation, but unlike critters, population size is variable and will change with time. Another favorite is the billiard ball machine. It consists of a system of synchronized particles moving in tracks and guided by a fixed set of obstacles. When the particles collide with each other, or with the obstacles, they undergo an elastic collision, such as the real billiard balls would do. And the rule set as defined means that they are also invertible, invariant to rotation, and their population remains constant over time. So no rule in the transfer function results in new particles being added to the system. Coding these up was fun, but if you just want to explore what they can do, there's a very nice simulator available online. It's got all the well-known transfer functions, preloaded, but gives you the option to create your own as well. You can vary the field and grid sizes, step size, and the generation delay. I'll leave a link in the description. As always, thanks for watching.